Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. I'm Adesua Omoruwan.
I'm Rufai Hussaini. Good to see you, Adesua.
And hi, I'm Sheto Atigari. Good morning. Former Deputy National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Chief Bode George, will be running for president in 2023.
Now, the plans by the opposition party chieftain to contest in the next presidential election were revealed by his special advisor, Uthman Shodike Dosumu, who also stated that the party platform, which Chief Bode George will be contesting, is yet to be decided.
So joining us now to discuss Bode George's presidential ambition and other issues is Segun Showumi, is public affairs analyst and the official spokesperson of the Atiku presidential campaign organization, and former assistant and deputy chief press secretary to Benga Daniel. That's Otumba Benga Daniel. Let's go straight to it this morning.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year. It's just seeing you, tete-a-tete here in the studio. Let's go straight to it. We'll start that alongside other issues this morning. But the rallying cry was out over the weekend. Bode George says, I'm going to come into the race. A lot of people are saying it's in reaction to the fact that the party supremacy of the PDP slipped away from him when he vied to become the chairman. A lot of people say there are other reactions. There's the Mr. Salvador's issue too. I did speak to Mr. Salvador. He was out of the country. He should join us about next week or a week after next to talk about these issues too. Why is Bode George doing this? And does he stand a chance?
Well, thank you. I think the person that will answer the why is Bode George doing it is Bode George himself or those that are closely related to his efforts. But what I would want to say clearly is that our position, especially from Atiku Abubakar, is that right about now, it's too early. Every political party, be it the PDP and the APC and all the other ones that are in the country, must right now begin to think about how to strengthen their party structures to ensure that the parties are repositioned, probably do a review of their last effort, rejig the message and the manifesto, align itself with the realities of the fact that Nigeria, as a matter of fact, 2020 is a very significant year. It's the beginning of a new decade. And if you will recall, most of the times in this country, 2020 was like a date that was supposed to produce almost everything. Vision 2020, 2020 and 20. By 2020, there'll be light and all. So we believe that at about now, any sober Nigerian in leadership at that must be more concerned to see, let's evaluate how the country has done. And since we're practicing democracy, the parties provide a platform for us to unify the country, since both parties can now, or all parties can now be pan-Nigeria. And then we can then begin to look at how best. So as far as we're concerned, if he wants to run for presidency, good luck to him. We wish him well. He should do all this consultation. When it's time for politics, we will play politics. On our side, as Atiku Abubakar, we're holding very true to what we believe. We believe that it's time to review, look at the parties, see how we can strengthen democracy, the organs of the party, re-stabilize the party, reposition the party, and at the right time we'll take a decision.
Why you're unable to speak for Chief Bode George, let me also ask you something he said or credited to him. He says the party has failed to play its role as an opposition since 2015. Basically, reiterating what the ruling APC had just said a couple of months down the line, last quarter of last year, when it says the PDP had become rudderless. Do you buy into that argument by Chief Bode George that says the PDP has lost it?
The question you will ask is that what exactly is the role of opposition? And I make bold to say that except for the carelessness and the throw all things in the wind, throw caution off the cleave and just overheat the politics that APC was doing when they were trying to get power, the PDP has been very measured in its opposition. There's never been any policy or government that requires the PDP to engage or offer an alternative point of view that we haven't offered an alternative point of view. Have we carried ourselves well in a manner that does not overheat the policy? The answer is yes. Did we conduct even our challenge for authority during the presidency with Atiku Abubakar as our candidate and the party in the most civilized manner to teach other parties and even the APC how to behave in a democracy which is supposed to really be a constitution of ideas? Except someone is asking that or suggesting that the only way you can be in opposition is to bring people out, is to shut the country down, is to torpedo things, or probably call for a revolution like some people have been wanting to do, or just make a mess of the country, or begin to embarrass the nation all over the world, then that's not how to be in opposition. We hold the view that opposition is to say this policy of government we do not agree, and we do not agree for this reason. This attitude of government, we do not agree for this reason. This meddlesomeness in the judiciary, we don't think is right, and we don't think is right for this reason. We're not in a battle that must end in chaos. we are in a contestation of ideas to say that our ideas are better than yours and you're failing on your own. And I think that we can improve on it. Let's not even deceive ourselves that maybe it's perfect. But I think that under Uche Secondus, with profound respect to all party leaders, I think he has given a good account of himself. Let me remind you some of the things he did. Immediately after he came on board, he did the repositioning summit for the party. After the repositioning, he pushed it forward. Then he moved from there. He tried to say, look, PDP at the state level, stop bringing your issues to the national, go sort yourself out at home. Let's devolve power. The authority lies there. We've had pretty much transparent primaries. Our presidential primary was the senator of all eyes. It was almost as if it was choreographed by Hollywood. It was beautiful spectacle. That's how to be a democracy. Our position after we thought we were cheated from the election, we put together a panel. We went to court. We advocated. We said what we could. We brought our lawyers. We lost the case. We moved to the Court of Appeal. We lost it there. And then we eventually lost it at the Supreme Court. After we lost it at the Supreme Court, we didn't throw our caution to the wind and start to ask for people for civil disobedience. We asked our members to become, we withdrew ourselves from the field from agitating and being quarrelsome, and we start to replan. We went into Bayelsa the best we could. We got cheated. We went into Kogi. We were cheated. Do you expect us to now allow force to meet force so that everything will now become like a very ugly spectacle? That's not correct. I think the PDP, with profound respect between ourselves and our followers on social media and some of our leaders, their attitude and their conduct, all they have been mindful of is what is in the best interest of Nigeria, absolutely. Don't forget that if you look at all our neighbors, you can see how popular uprising has torpedoed their country. And when you go back to after the torpedo, you realize that they are just dealing with chaos. Look at Iraq, look at some of this location, look at even some of the countries that did the Arab Spring. So sometimes, because people have an opportunity every 4 years to come and choose their leaders, democratic organizations and political parties must be more civil in their engagement. They must be more engaging and appealing to the people, but not rarely to say, oh, pull him down, destroy the government, go a riot, come and do. No. That's not how to play democracy. It's the evolution that probably has now become a bit too sophisticated for the aged. And maybe that's why people that are a little bit elderly are used to their Ali must go ways of doing things, and they insist that that's the only way to do things.
You have spoken about, restructuring and going back to the drawing board as a party. And Chief Olabode George has come out and said that his primary concern or the focus of his campaign is uniting the country. That's looking at religious and tribal differences as well as economic prosperity. Do you buy into this vision for his campaign, or do you think that we should be focusing on something else come 2023?
The person who has been adjudged the winner of the last election is President Muhammadu Buhari. It's not even done 1 year. The issues that they want to bring to the table were some of the issues that we brought underneath the Atiku campaign. We campaigned on restructuring, on joining the people, on making Nigeria more united, on peace and unity, on the economy and all of that. And if we didn't get the result we wanted, it didn't mean that our message was not ideal. It was ideal. We feel that the processes of our election requires a bit of improvement. And therefore, we hold the view that it would be premature and not right for us not to allow the man that has been called the president by our laws to walk a bit. We can have issues with some of his policies, and we do have a lot of issues with his policy. We can say that. But we will overheat the polity ridiculously. And we will give Nigeria the impression that the whole process of politics is all about politicking. And that's not it. Because we will then run into a tailwind of campaign. Everybody will start to get overheated and agitated towards all the caucuses that requires to produce whatever result you are wanting. And then even the presidency and the country will be distracted. It will not stop at the presidency. It will cascade to the governors and others. So I think that 2023 is too early. What all Nigerians must be talking about now is how do we get this Nigerian economy to work? How do we ensure that we can have a stable country? How do we ensure that we can have peace? How do we ensure that we can have a contestation of ideas as the basis by which you can differentiate the two political parties? The APC has this view here. This is PDP's view. And that's the way to do it.
So I think what you are saying from the position of PDP is that you have torn the line of the likes of Mario Cuomo, former New York governor, that said, we campaign in poetry, we are governing in prose. And
Absolutely.
You want governance to be in prose now. But in a bid to talk about that, I'll just talk about 2 points. I'll ask you 2 points. Issa Funtua was here a couple of days ago, and he talked a lot about the Igbo presidency. He says they have to belong if they want to be president. We've not got the reaction of Jim Ward as regards that, but I'm sure a lot of Igbo people will shrug in their seat where Issa Funtua said that. He pretty much, echoed the statement like Tinubu will say, power is not served at a la carte. You need to come and get it yourself. I also want to talk to you about debts. You people are crying so strongly about debts, the debt of this government. Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information, had a press statement in Lagos recently to say it's not that cry, it's not a sound cry. You want to talk about those two issues? I'll
tell you what, I think that to give them a very early New Year gift, I think they should make Alhaji Sapuntua talk more. I must tell you, I was amazed at the fluidity and the control of himself in that interview. It was a fantastic interview on behalf of the side he belongs to, which is the APC and the President Buhari government. He handled it well. But when you say the Igbos should belong, the question that you will ask is, belong to what? Are they not bona fide members of the Nigerian estate as it is? And if they have an agitation to want to produce presidency, with profound respect to Issa Funtua, you cannot make such a statement, especially given your proximity to the presidency. Because sometimes people can imagine that you are speaking the mind of the president. Every Nigerian tribe, let alone one of the three foundational organs that this country was given independence to, the Igbos, are equal partners in this estate. And for them to want to be president is a right they have. All Nigerians of voting age have a right to be president. How they're going to navigate to get the presidency is a different kettle of fish. But we mustn't pour scorn or add salt onto injury by making a people who feel that there's a conspiracy and a glass ceiling over the presidency by telling them they must belong to what? To his party? To his caucus? To the ganging of the cabals? To his friends? To the household of Buhari? What exactly does that belong to? So we don't hold that view. We believe that there is evidence that the Indigbos, as a group of Nigerians, have demonstrated capacity, competence, and intellect everywhere we've looked for them in the world, be it in Nigeria or outside. And that therefore, if they really want to be president, they should come out with ideas and programs that people can buy into. They should allay people's fear around the issues of maybe they will want to be a bit like, settling scores and doing all of that, and get Nigerians to begin to relax. After all, we're one country. We love eating their food. We live with ourselves, and we have a few good people around them. So they will play politics when it is time for politics, but they cannot have a victim mentality if they want all Nigerians to speak. But I do not agree with Sapuntua on that, in spite of the good comments I made about his interview. On the debts, you see, the Nigerian government of the APC, they're a funny lot. They will say Nigeria has not borrowed enough, when in the real sense of the word, Nigeria has borrowed more than it has ever borrowed in its history. And they will be trumping up debt to GDP. They forget that the critical part that tells you whether the debt is sustainable is debt to revenue. So in one breath, they'll tell you that they have a revenue problem, but they don't have a debt problem. Now, if you have a revenue problem, precisely how do you want to pay back the debt? You must not just look at debt to GDP. You must also look at debt to revenue. And what we're even seeing is that they come and tell the world, oh, we're going to use debt to fund infrastructure. That thinking is on its own archaic. Infrastructure development now in this 21st century must be driven significantly by concession and private sector. So it's a differentiating point between where we stand as PDP and where they are. They are running an archaic economic model that doesn't work.
We'll take a quick break now, Mr. Shegun Shomi. We'll come back to talk about the 2023 presidents, because unfortunately, it's where we have found ourselves, the politics. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. We still have with us in the studio Mr. Shegun Shomi, as ACE Public Affairs Analyst and official spokesperson of the Atiku Presidential Campaign Organization, as well as the former Special Assistant and Deputy Chief Press Secretary to Otumba Benga Daniel. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to go back to the 2023 presidency because, unfortunately, like I said, that is where we have found ourselves, the politicking of it. President Muhammadu Buhari's running mate in 2011, Pastor Tunde Bakari, had just yesterday said the president should be involved in a succession plan to protect his legacies. The president had issued that lengthy letter on New Year's Day to Nigeria for the second time, reiterating he'll be standing down in 2023. Now, he's received quite the knocks from some pan-sociocultural groups, Afenifere and Ohanese. They say the president has been very silent on the power play and power shift. My question to you is, should the president be involved in this power play? Should he be speaking out? And what's your take on that letter saying, I will stand down in 2023?
Thank you. Let me start from the Pastor Tunde Bakare letter. I know him. He's one of those ones we respect. But I have become wary of those who use the pulpit to play politics. And I've asked myself a couple of times, what would be the easy way out for government, lest we make our country become ungovernable because of misinterpretation or misunderstanding of the faith-based groups. I think that Pastor Tunde Bakare, with profound respect to him, has no right to be prodding the presidency on succession. First of all, we are not in a monarchy. There is no such thing as succession in our democracy. What we have in our democracy are elections. And when it comes to even the issues of party primaries, a presidential candidate or even a president that wins an election, however highly placed his office, is not superior to his party. A political party draws out the modus operandi of their primaries and then announce when it is time for those that are interested to go buy forms and all that, organize a free, fair Congress according to their own rules, and someone emerges. The thinking of succession planning and all of that laces with it an impression that it is the full and sole right of President Buhari to determine first for his party who his successor will be. That's not how democracy works. Even for Buhari himself, for the president himself, he participated in the primaries that chew him up. The second is, when you say things like that, it simply means that you are telling the president to use his extra authority and extra influence to override your party structure. That should also be, with profound respect, be very wrong. What he could have said is that the president should work on the electoral processes relative to the appending the signature to the improvement of the Electoral Act, so that we can have an electoral process that is fairly more credible, more transparent, and can allow younger people to be willing to go through the hurdles of participating and voting in an election. That will be all about what the president can do. It is not in his power to determine who will succeed him. It is not in his power to determine who his party will give his ticket to. It is not in his power to build succession. If there be anything he wants to do, let him try and make success of the assignment that he has been given by Nigeria that we believe he's struggling under it. And therefore, I say that the only reason why we'll have to let Pastor Bakare go up lightly is because of a principle in the church that you call the doctrine of just men made perfect. The doctrine of just men made perfect has an idea that the Holy Spirit that works with them according to the canonized laws is right, but sometimes their flesh can be weak. And I think that it is in one of those maybe sleep that he has now delved too deeply into things that do not...
You call this a Freudian sleep? Or
it's a sleep.
Or his strong perception. A lot of people are saying he's saying this because of the role of some people that the First Lady has constantly talked about and thrown more light on.
I think that if I said this, or if one of the party men said that, or if one of the Nigerians who don't have the big platform of the church said that, we can allow him his gyrations. But when you stand on the podium of the Christ and you make pronouncement, there is a thin line between finding out which of those words you're saying are yours and which of those ones are inspired by higher opportunities to see, to hear, and to experience that comes from above. Therefore, in a secular society, men of God must stay away from politics, because at the end of the day, it does not always augur well. And he used the example of Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore, and maybe Deng Xiaoping in China. Are those democracies in the sense of the word of the democracy that Nigeria is practicing? Our model recognizes people going to participate at the grassroots, people generating their power from the base, and people participating in democratic processes, usually around primaries and congresses, and a candidate emerging as first among equals who will stand out. If you recall, during the last presidential primaries of the PDP, unlike the APC that printed only one form, we had close to 13 of them that were vying for that post, and one emerged. And to the sophistry of our system, all of them were able to work together as one. That's how democracy should be practiced.
Mr. Showmi, well, what you have painted seems the ideal situation. Do we have an ideal situation in Nigeria? And I ask this because there's an unwritten gentleman agreement for rotation of powers. And from what we have seen in successive government, this takes the power play in the ruling party, that of the opposition, and the active support of the incumbent president. Isn't that what happens?
Look, in 2015, when President Buhari was coming to power, the People's Democratic Party, for reasons best known to them, also decided that they were going to print only one form for Jonathan. And therefore, they shut out a lot of people from the presidential contestation.
Because they were confident.
They shut out a lot of people from the presidential contestation. Did they win? They didn't win. You must not insist on stumbling on a block that your friends have stumbled before, and then you go stumble on it and you fail. I am saying, for the benefit of all of us, for the sustainability of our democracy, high-ranking members of society must not give the president the impression that it is a singular responsibility to pick who will succeed him. And if you want to stretch it further, some may even think that Pastor Bakari was actually playing to the gallery by trying to maybe signpost that maybe he should be picked, since in the first instance, sometimes back, he was a running mate of that president, and the rumor mill has been filled with the fact that perhaps he's even eyeing for a position of the vice president in case.
Is it bad for him? Is it bad for Pastor Bakari to have an ambition?
Well, he should say so, clearly. The problem is that if you mask your original intention in poetry, it's okay. We can call you Shakespearean. But if you mask it underneath the cloud of the Holy Spirit and an elevated altar that draws inspiration from God, then it means that you're bringing the church into politics too directly, and it could have consequences.
Don't we vote across religious lines in this country? Don't the voting lines still revolve around the Muslim North and the Christian South?
No, I think that most people...
Don't we do that?
I think that most people misinterpret...
Why do we have to have a juxtaposition of both religion on a ticket? When you hear things like you can't have a Muslim ticket, you can have a Muslim-Christian ticket?
I think that people juxtapose the narrative wrongly. One of the things that make people think that that's what we're doing in the country is because of the preponderance of Muslims in the North. But it's not really the Islam that is making them significant. It's the number of the population and the number of people that they bring out to vote and their attitude to voting. And it is for balance that we always say, okay, if the lead candidate is a Christian, let's have his opponent or his running mate to be vice versa, like we had with Jonathan. He was a Christian, Sambo was a Muslim, and we had with Buhari, he is a Muslim and the other is a Christian. But really and truly, what is determining how people vote is the attitude of the players to election. Let me tell you what we see from a statistical point of view. The people in the southern part of the country, they want to agitate. They want to speak. They want to critique. They want to be on television and radio and all of that. But when it comes down to the brass fact of go get your voter's card, bring it all out, go through the pain, participate in the process, do you know what we see on the field? We find out that the educated elites are mostly absent. And therefore, if you look at the North, on the other hand, just tell them voting is tomorrow. You will see them come out in their thousands. How they manage to do that?
Argue that it's easier to do that because they are actually uneducated. We have more poor people coming out because they know that if they go through that process, they stand the chance of going home with 500 or 1,000 naira.
I think you must be careful not to disrespect the northern people. We must not appropriate to ourselves a bigger level of intellect than our brothers in any part of the country. I think that once you are in a democracy, it is the civic responsibilities of anybody of voting age or participating age to ensure that is interested in how leaders emerge. Would you now blame the North for the quality of representation that we throw up even in our own southern areas, where near thugs and rabble-rousers are the ones that have been sent to go and represent us? We have what has always been considered to be the difficulty of democracy. The difficulty of democracy is that if those who know refuse to participate in the selection and the election process, then the rabble-rousers, who probably don't even know what to look out for in leadership, will be the one, because the vote of a madman and the vote of a professor counts for just one. So I think that what we need to be saying to ourselves is that let us stop disrespecting any part of ourselves. Just like I've said, Itaputua could not have said the Igbos should be loved because they are Nigerians and they're entitled. We should not also always see it that maybe anything that is coming from the North is less than well thought through. If the young people in the North are interested in election, it is the responsibility of the young people in the southern part of the country also to be interested. If the leadership of the North is organizing their people to participate in the process, it is the responsibility of that. Because you know what? The last population figures that we had when Obasanjo was president shows that the country is almost 49-51. It's almost evenly divided. And by the time you go to the North Central, where you have a large chunk of other people that are not exactly ethnic Hausa Fulani, you can almost see where the tilt is. But our issue has always been indolence. We talk about the problem, but we're not ready to act on the solution.
I want you to actually answer Adesuwe's question when we come back. Going back to the letter, you know, people would say that it was uninspiring. Some people would say that
the president's letter.
Yeah, the president's letter.
I'll come to that. I have quite a lot to say on that.
We're going to go on a quick break now. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation.
Okay, welcome back. Still the morning show on the Rise News. We've got Shegun Shomi, is public affairs analyst, official spokesperson of the Atiku, a worker presidential campaign organization. We talked about the letter, the president's letter. I want you to scrutinize that letter. Tell us your pros, your cons. This is a good letter.
I think it was a necessary letter. And I think, well, unlike how he has behaved in the past, where he saw no evil, spoke no thing, only when he wanted to say things that were not, you know, celebratory. I think I'll give him like a bit of a pass mark, at least, for understanding that Nigeria is entering a new decade. In terms of the content of the letter, I've always believed, and I still hold very strongly, that the APC government of President Muhammadu Buhari is the biggest showmanship that Nigeria has ever seen in governance.
What do you mean? The
biggest showmanship in the sense that they like to bandy hope. And in bandying this hope, they keep regurgitating the same kind of, we will make this, we will do this, and they never tell us the how. You see, the devil is in the detail. If you say you're going to do this kilometer, that kilometer, 1 million, that, the ones you told us you were going to do, the one you told Nigerians you were going to do in 2015, how many of them have you achieved?
But it was the test that started on Lagos Ibadan.
You see,
rail track.
Look. There is a cost-benefit analysis to everything you do. Those who ran Argentina into a crisis, and those who ran Venezuela into a meltdown, and all of those financial crises, those who ran Greece into a crisis, actually did think that they were building. The problem is that for an African nation like Nigeria, relative to what the world is suspecting is happening with China and its money, we will run the risk, if we don't scream, that this present government under Buhari and his friends, which I like to call Buhari and the gang, they're going to run us into a situation where the whole country may just will be auctioned off. Because they are too fixated on the debt to GDP, which is that the Nigerian economy can be bigger, and therefore you can afford to get more debt. And okay, the argument as to do you get the debt that you use it now and you will sustain the debt. And they are forgetting that the critical part is that even as it is, they are laboring the Nigerian people with a lot of taxes.
How do you finance such projects for the people without borrowing?
Bless you. There is an attitude that the chief executive brings into an African country that tells the world that this chief executive is ready, open, and willing partner in business. That was what we wanted Atiku to come do for Nigeria. You see, there's a way private and capital and equity moves. It moves on the basis of who they can trust. It moves on the basis that the law is respected all the time, not that you cherry pick which laws you respect. You know why? Because if they have arbitration issues, your respect for rule of law is what gives them guarantee that that's one. The other thing is that you have to make up your mind. You cannot say you want to run private sector participation in any sector of your economy if you still want to do price control. It doesn't work that way. If you know you want to do price control, invariably it means you want to set in place another subsidy regime to help the operators mitigate against the loss of profit. Private sector discipline and private sector participation by government necessitates that government must think through it very well before saying it's going private sector. Upon going private sector, government must allow private sector dictates to run. Nobody tells them how much they're selling a Range Rover, a car, a book. Why are you telling the people that you have given licenses to how much they must charge for certain things? That's one. Two, you cannot be too heavy on punitive taxes if you want money to come into your country that you don't have. You can't wake up in the morning and say, oh, somebody did not pay you one thing, they made a mistake, therefore you slammed it.
They're going to argue with you. They're saying they launched the finance bill into law, 1st of January 2020. You see how that's going to cushion effect on small businesses.
You first of all increase VAT, you increase taxes, you have a lot of multiple taxation going all over the place, and then you tell us to bring a finance bill in 2020. We have just started 2020. So we haven't seen how your finance bill will impact. We can only talk about what you have done up till now. And what we have seen up till now is that
small businesses that make 25 million will not pay VAT, will not pay taxes. They're tax exempt.
Well, I'm saying to you that this government has three attitudes around money. Tax, borrow. They never creatively ask, how can we expand the participation of the Nigerian players in the economic play? Which means that, which is better? Should you let the people have their money in their hands so that they can participate in commerce? Or should you tax them and hope that you can give them services? It's a chicken and egg approach. If those who are borrowing them money are willing to keep borrowing them, they can take the money. Our duty as Nigerians is to constantly ask, show us the payment plan. Because how can you take a loan and not plan for how you're going to pay it? I haven't seen any of their rules being told. So you're going to build the road from here to Kafanchan. You're even going to go to Maradi in Niger.
They're restoring the toll very soon. And another argument they'll give you is, check the biggest economies in the world.
Which are those ones?
Japan, the likes. Tax to GDP ratio over 100%. That even after the 30 billion they're going to be borrowing, the tax to GDP ratio will just move up to 33%.
I have just told you that stop focusing excessively on tax to GDP. Go back to tax to revenue.
But it depends on the model of economy you see.
What I'm saying is
I'm a Keynesian person.
Yes, I understand the
Keynesian. It depends on the model of economy you see.
When you go with debt to GDP, do you know that fundamentally there is an assumption that your economy is a producing economy? If you are not producing and you are thumping your chest on debt to GDP, you are injuring yourself.
What would you say about the border closure? Because the Buhari administration is saying that they have saved a lot of money. They have been able to use this as a security measure, as well as start to boost the agricultural sector.
Let me explain that for you very, very clearly, without missing word. The Buhari government thinks that draconian attitude they display at home is what they must display with their neighbors. You cannot be punishing your neighbors for your own internal policing and custom issues. You have a border there. You have decided that certain goods must not come into your country. It is the duty of your own enforcement to make sure that those things don't come in. And if you cannot police your country, if you cannot manage your own customs, if you cannot be sure that your own people will behave, then you're going to punish the entire sub-region. It's significant to how they behave in all things. For the Buhari government, every problem is a nail. And you know when every problem is a nail, every solution is a hammer. Okay, if you close the border, when are you going to open it? Have you done the internal cleansing of your system to ensure that when you open the borders, that which you said you shut out will not happen again? Look. These guys don't know anything about the economy. It is our own forte. That's where we have expertise as PDP.
Is your principal going to run in 2023?
Let me first of all tell you why it is our expert in PDP on the economy. We picked a small economy with double digits in a very short time. We rebased it and made the biggest economy bigger than South Africa. These were gains we did. And if Atiku decides, he hasn't told me.
Is he going to run in 2023?
Let me say this on his behalf. I think Atiku Abubakar is under tremendous pressure to give it a shot again. But I think he has said that, look, the most important thing right now is for us to make sure that the party is even reformed and strong enough to carry the responsibility. If he so desires, I can guarantee you that the solutions that Nigeria is looking for, still resides in his belly.
Well, every Nigerian politician is under pressure to run again in elections. That for sure we know. Thank you so much, Mr. Segun Shomi, for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.